Okay, so this video is going to have the nonfiction and the poetry. So once we're done with the nonfiction, you'll pause the video, go do the activity, do the poem questions, and then come back and check yourself. You could totally cheat if you want. That's up to you. But to have fun with it, this is the proper way to do it. All right, so looking at nonfiction Norway, what was paragraph 3 mainly about? I would have circled the keywords paragraph 3, main idea mainly, and wrote what did I think it was mostly about, and the answer to that is D, the faults in Titanic's design. So things that were wrong with the way it was created. Number 2, based on the selection, what can you conclude about White Star Line? So we have to take the facts from the story and we have to make a conclusion. We have to infer, and I can infer they didn't want to be outshone by another company. Outshone meaning like they didn't want anybody else to be better than them. And there was text evidence to prove that. Number 3, what directly affected the success of the crew looking for Titanic's remains? So that's going to be a cause and effect question. And so the cause was they were looking for improvements in technology. The effect of that was the success of the crew were able to find some remains. Number 4, what is the significance of Titanic's lifeboats to the tragedy? The correct answer to that is C. There weren't enough lifeboats for everyone on board. So that too is also kind of like a cause and effect question, like because there wasn't enough lifeboats, the effect of that, there was a tragedy. A lot of people died. Number 5. Why did the author include paragraph 5 in this selection? So I would circle the keyword paragraph 5, circle the word selection, and I would think to myself, like, why is that paragraph there? Why is that paragraph important? And when I go back and look at it, either my annotations, my notes, or reread the paragraph, I will find the answer was B, to show how the Titanic continues to hold people's attention even many years later. So in that paragraph, it talked about how many people are still interested in the Titanic after all this time. Number 6, what could have been added to this story to help the readers better understand the key ideas? So like what text feature could they have added to help us understand the main idea? And I think what would have helped us was some photographs. Like we could have seen what it looked like, or seen what they were working on, or the lifeboats, or whatever that might have looked like. I don't think a table of contents is going to help me because this wasn't written into chapters. A graph with the data, there wasn't a lot of data for me to have to dig through, and an index isn't going to help me go find the information. Number 7, look at the figure below. What would best fit in the blank space? So all this is the main idea, and then details that went with that idea. And the one that also needs to be included in there is D. The bulkheads allowed water to move in from one to the next. And so that was another reason why its design was not perfect. And number 8, what was the best summary of this story? The best summary is the Titanic, or is D. The Titanic was a grand ship that captured the public's attention both in the early 1900s and now, and there's proof of that all the way through. So now it is time for you to go do the poem. So if you will pause the video and then come back, and you will get the answers. All right, so now looking at the poem about frozen waters, here we go. Number 1, what is the most likely reason the author includes repetition? We know that repetition means something's being repeated, and that was A, to create the same mood in the beginning and the end of the text. So he repeated it to show that it was the same. Number 2, why are lines 8 through 12 included? So you have to stop and think, okay, what are those lines about? What were they talking about? And they talked about describing what made the ship so grand. Number 3, Lines 16 through 18 are organized on the page the way they are to what? So looking at those lines, they're kind of unique, and they did that so that we could see the panic of that moment. They were trying to represent panic in the way that those words were organized. Number 4, what piece of figurative language is not in this story? So I would circle the word not, and I would have to go through, okay, was there personification? Write down what line it was in. Was there a simile? Write down what line it was in. Was there alliteration? Write down what line it was in. But the correct answer to number 4 is C. There was not a metaphor. Which word best represents the mood created by the author in this story? So before I answer, I would write down what do I think the mood is first, and then match it up, and the correct answer is B. It was an anxious mood. People were anxious and nervous and scared. Number 6. The reader can tell that this poem is written in free verse because D. It does not have rhythm and rhyme. Free verse means it can do whatever it wants because it's free. Number 7, the author most likely was inspired to write this poem through his, do you think it was from his past, his family, his interest, or his feelings? And the answer is C. He was interested in the topic. There wasn't a lot of evidence to show that it was his family or it was part of his past. It just kind of gave me clues or text evidence to show that he was interested. Number 8, the person who wrote this poem is called the what? And we know the person who writes a poem is the poet, the writer of the poem.